I want to talk about something that I've noticed lately, something that has been on my mind, and it was emphasized during my research for another travel destination that I'm going to be taking next year. It's about the lack of difference that people are now having, whether it's on social media or in real life. I'm noticing so much now how everyone kind of wants to fit one mold, and it's actually so exhausting to see the same thing done over and over and over again just by different people. And I think TikTok exemplifies this a lot, not only through their viral videos. And what happens is someone sees a video, it goes viral, and then everybody starts copying it, and they don't put any kind of spin on it. They just keep doing the exact same video, word by word, action by action, mimicking the same exact thing that was done viral so that they can become viral. Basically, what happens is you're scrolling and you're just basically seeing the same thing over and over again. And it is something that I noticed about TikTok. It's one of the reasons why I kind of stopped liking it as much. Initially, when it came out, I used to be obsessed with it. It was different. People were doing different things. And then as people wanted to become more and more TikTok famous, they would replicate exactly what someone else was doing. Now it's more than ever before. Like, it's almost like being similar, doing the same thing as someone else is actually what gets you famous, not being different. It's so interesting because I feel like previously what made you famous was that you were different than others, and now what people want to do is become as similar as possible to people who are already famous or who have achieved viral videos or anything like that, so that they can become famous off of exactly what they did. And actually, it's kind of funny because algorithms even push that kind of method. They push when you are similar to others, when you're doing what they want you to do. They don't like when you're different or stray from the norms. One of the reasons why I've actually kind of stopped going on social media is because a lot of times you see similar things just over and over again pushed onto you. And I know like algorithms are based off your own personal choices. And so it's kind of odd that an algorithm would decide to push you the exact same thing over and over again to the point where you get sick of the sound that people are using. As soon as you see a video start, you're like, I already know that this is going to be, I don't even want to watch it. It actually became very interesting to me because yes, these are viral videos, so I could kind of see why people do it. You know, they want to be famous, they don't want to really be different, they want to kind of stick to a mold. But it really was emphasized when I started my travel research. I'm going to Japan next year, very excited about that, and I really wanted to know like what are some things that people are purchasing in Japan, what are some things that I should be looking out for or should be doing more research on, particularly around Japanese skincare. I love skincare, I love knowing more about skincare, and I live in Canada, so it's very expensive here, and so basically if you go anywhere else in the world, it's probably going to be cheaper. Of course, my algorithm picked up that I'm going to Japan. It started showing me videos, and the videos were people who were like what I brought from Japan. And what I noticed over and over again were people were buying the exact same things over and over again. Different people, completely different people from different countries and everything. Their photos look the exact same. Like if I saw a different photo, I was like, oh, this is finally something new. And it was so interesting to me because everybody is so different. You cannot tell me that you guys all have the same skin type, the same personal style. I don't know. It was just so weird to me to see a vast majority of videos being the exact same thing, getting the exact same brands. It was almost alarming how there was no uniqueness to it. When I see things like that, it really makes me think, wow, this is most definitely a simulation. I don't really understand why people want to be exactly like everybody else. Like, say, for example, the clean girl aesthetic. Everyone wanted to have the clean girl aesthetic. Why do you guys all want to look the same? Like, what is this? If Adidas comes into style, everybody needs Adidas. It's such an odd thing, and I really truly cannot describe it except for this being a simulation. And people who want to look the same are NPCs. and they want to follow the societal norms, societal routines, the societal pressures, conform to society. They don't want to deviate at all from the lines that society has placed upon us. And I think it's so interesting to see that, particularly when you're a person who is interested in video games, because this is truly how NPCs act. They don't stray from the norm. They do the same thing every single day. They they don't think differently than the rest of the world. They're just there. They just do what they have to do, what they think they're supposed to do, and that's it. So what is the simulation? Because I keep talking about it. The simulation, how I would describe it, is societal expectations and norms are being followed, and people don't stray from that. They don't think for themselves or anything. If clean girl aesthetic is in, they're doing clean girl aesthetic. If a certain brand is in style, that's what they're going to wear. They're not going to put their own personal touches on anything. They aren't going to stray from the societal norms that have been placed upon us. To be honest, I feel like a lot of people are living like this. And it's actually very hard to find people who are not living outside of the simulation or are trying to break free of the simulation. What the simulation does is it makes you walk on a straight line, and you cannot go down a separate path without being looked at in a very odd way. So societal norms, the simulation would be like, graduate high school, go to university, get a relationship in university, graduate university, get your job, get married, have 2 to 3 kids, commit yourself to your job, put your kids in like soccer or football or something of that sort, make sure they excel in it, get that white picket house fence, work until you're like 65 or whatever the retirement age is, and only once you've done that, then you can travel, getting a job, climbing the corporate ladder. A lot of people don't like the term quiet quitting because they think, what do you mean? Like, you're in your job for this time. You should be progressing. You should want to be excelling. You should be working overtime. All of these are things that have shaped our life decisions from a young age. We are taught that this is how you're supposed to move in life. And if you don't move like this in life, then you're considered odd, weird. You're considered someone who's not following the norms. Therefore, you're considered different, and people don't typically like when others are different. You start being perceived in a different way. And what happens is, because these societal norms are placed upon us at a young age, we start living a life that's guided by external expectations. Not what we want to do, but what we think society wants us to do. Maybe we don't want to go to university after high school. Maybe we don't want to get married at the age of 25 or whatever the average age is. So because we are influenced by a young age to strive for these societal norms, we don't focus on what we want. We focus on what society wants for us. So even if we want to, say, for example, start our own business, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to go to college and get a 9-to-5 and follow that normal, I put that in quotation marks, process. And what happens is, I want to say over time, but I really think it happens in a very quick way. I think many people don't even notice that they are starting to walk this straight path, is you lose your individuality, you burn out, and you feel unfulfilled, and there's this lack of creativity that goes on because you're not doing anything for yourself. You're not listening to your own desires, your wants, your needs. You're just thinking about what society thinks of you, and so you focus on them. You don't focus on you. I see this a lot with relationships. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm 30, I'm not married. I see so many comments from their people like, I'm 21 years old and I never had a relationship. You're 21 years old. What are you talking about? And they're like, I'm scared I'm going to be alone forever. Like, you're 21. The average age is what, 75? You have so much time. But because there's these timelines that are placed upon us, people start panicking. and what happens is they start settling, and then that relationship, that job, or whatever it is not fulfilling, and eventually you just want to break down and cry because you're like, is this life? Is this what life is all about? At one point, I did feel like that. I was following, I guess, the societal norms because that's what was pushed upon me. You know, you go to school, you get a good job. For me, it was so interesting because it was like I was ticking off this checklist. And I'm like, okay, I have this, I have this, I have all of this. Why am I not happy? Why actually do I feel so depressed right now? Like, I think when I had that checklist, I was the most depressed that I've ever been. I do still have things that are on that checklist. I do still have them. Like, I still have a job. I went to school. I have the job. These are things that I technically did want to do myself. I don't regret doing them at all. But they were because I did want to do them. At one point, I did start school and do something that was what my family expected of me to do. I realized I was not happy, and then I decided I'm just going to do what I want to do. This is my life, and I'm going to take charge of it. In my job, it was the same. For a long time, I was basically climbing up the ladder, and then I hit a stopping point. I was like, I do not want to make my job my life. I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live. I want to have a work-life balance. I want to be able to travel. I want to feel relaxed. I don't want to feel stressed. And so what I had to do was I had to start breaking through the simulation and start breaking through these societal norms that were not things that I wanted to do, but were things that society had placed upon me. When I say society, I feel like it makes it seem like, oh, this whole country places these expectations, but it can be different things, and I think it can be different people who place these expectations. Your family can place expectations on you, your friends, your workplace, the things that you consume on social media. All of these things can place expectations on you, and the expectations build up and build up, and what happens is you start comparing yourself to others because you're basically looking at your checklist versus their checklist. I feel like for the most part, my timelines do not follow the societal norms whatsoever, particularly once I hit like the age of 25. When my frontal lobe developed, I was kind of just like, I don't care what you people think of me. And obviously there's those ups and downs sometimes, and sometimes you have to unlearn things, but it's such a freeing feeling to be able to think for yourself and not feel like you have to follow what other people are doing. One of the things I feel like is almost pushed down our throat, particularly as women, is relationship timelines. And I feel like this is probably another discussion for another day, but there are so many people who are so focused on relationships. It's almost like a relationship is the end all be all to life. Like, your purpose to living is being in a relationship, is what it feels like. People have this expectation that by this age you should have X amount of boyfriends, you should have slept with someone at a specific age, you should have married someone by X age, and if you aren't, then you're not gonna have kids. There's this whole thing on relationships and societal norms. It's actually ridiculous, and so many people fall into this trap. I once fell into it, and I'm so happy that I have taken myself out of those expectations, out of those timelines in regards to relationships. Has freed me so much, when I tell you. And it actually made me second guess all the things I previously wanted in life. Do I actually want kids, or is that something that society has told me that we're supposed to have? For me, I'm almost 30. Where I'm at is, yeah, I think kids would be great, but not right now. And I will not settle for anyone until I find the man who would be the perfect husband and the perfect father for my future kids. And if I don't find that man, then I will not have kids. I will not settle one bit. I will not lower my standards one bit for a man. People so many times are told, oh, your standards are way too high. How can standards be too high if they're supposed to be personalized? Let me ask that again. How can your standards be too high if standards are supposed to be personalized? It's just a question. I'm just wondering. Because when you start having high standards and people try to make you lower your standards, you kind of wonder, why are you so concerned with my standards? If my standards are too high and I end up being alone for my whole entire life, I am okay with that because I know that I kept true to myself and I followed what I wanted out of life. Why does that make you upset? So all this to say, when I released myself out of these norms that society has placed on us in regards to relationships, I actually learned a lot about myself. I don't want kids right now. I mean, I do want kids eventually. Like right now, I'm enjoying my life. And actually, as you guys know, I'm solo traveling. I'm experiencing the world, experiencing different cultures. I'm adopting new hobbies, learning new things. I feel like this has been the most flourishing era of my life. I feel like I'm rediscovering myself. I feel like a child again, but with my own money. I can spend my money the way I want to, and I don't really have that limitation set there by other factors. When I broke away from those expectations, the feeling of freedom that I had, I really can't describe it. It's an exhilarating feeling. It makes you kind of want to tear up because for so many years you felt like you were not enough. I felt like because I did not fit the mold, that there was something wrong with me. And when you break away from that simulation and you start thinking for yourself, you realize there's nothing wrong with me. There's actually more things wrong with the people who are still living in that simulation. And this goes for a number of things, even like issues around the world, political, climate, everything. You realize that people don't think for themselves. They don't critically think, they just follow the crowd. And a lot of times they just do things to become viral, to be famous, to be accepted from the mass. That's what people do. They want approval for following the social norms. And so they do something they may not even believe in. This is what other people are applauding right now, so I'm going to do it too. I also want to be applauded. That's what people end up doing. And it's tiring to watch it from the sidelines because you're not really in that crowd anymore. And it's so interesting because when you break the simulation, you can clearly see how many people are actually in the simulation. How many people are just going day to day miserable. They're not even thinking for themselves. They're not even thinking really at all. They're just like kind of on automatic mode. They're literally a sim. They do all of these things. They follow all the steps for the ideal life. I'm putting that in quotation marks. They do all the things that they're supposed to do to be successful or to be happy. What society says is success, what society says is happiness, and they end up not being happy. They're miserable. I think the thing also about the simulation is it's not just a checklist. It shapes how we think, what we value, and how we see ourselves and how we see other people. The simulation is a default mode. You're going day by day, same thing, over and over again. You're on autopilot, doing what you think is expected of you instead of doing what you actually want to do. And for the people who break free from it, when you wake up, it's like, how did I get here? Where am I? And then you see everybody else walking around like zombies. Their eyes dusted over, no life, miserable. And you realize what you were in before. You realize that once upon a time, you were like that too. And you were able to break free. The simulation heavily impacts how your life is going to go. It shapes how you think. It shapes what you value. It impacts how you see yourself and how you see other people. Is the simulation bad though? Me personally, I feel like the simulation is bad, because I think it rids you of your uniqueness. You're not living your own life, you're living someone else's life. When I'm talking about breaking away from the simulation, it's stepping back, questioning these societal norms that are put upon us, and asking yourself, what is actually true to you? What do I want? Honestly, when you break away from the simulation, it's hard because you want to be with people who have also broken away from the simulation. You want to be with people who also are straying away from societal norms, who are not going to be following a specific path, who are not scared of being perceived. And I think that's one of the hardest parts, is so many people are afraid of being perceived. So many people are like, oh my God, I just did such an embarrassing thing. Or look at those people, they're so embarrassing. Like, they're constantly afraid of being embarrassed in front of others. They're constantly being afraid of being judged by others. And honestly, the fear of being perceived is something I'm still going through, because although I know I am breaking free of societal norms, it's a very hard process to escape the fear of being perceived. Because you've gone your whole life thinking, what will people think of me? What will people think if I do this? This is not something that people usually do, so I'm not going to do it. And you never question, well, why don't people do it? It can be a very lonely path. And it's so rewarding. It feels so great when you meet someone who also has escaped the fear of being perceived, and they are just free. They are 100% themselves, and it's such a beautiful thing. Like, I love when I see people who are wearing like funky clothing and who have their hair dyed different colors than the norm, and who are not afraid to truly show their personality and their character. That is so beautiful. I absolutely love it, because it really shows that in that particular section of their life, they don't care and they want to be 100% themselves. And this is solely what I'm trying to get to, is I'm trying to get to the point where I'm trying to curate a closet of my own, a closet where I have unique pieces, and pieces that it's not just because these are in and trendy and, oh, this is a brand name or anything like that. I want pieces that actually truly speak to me and speak about me. Like, I want something that would show my character, my personality. Right now I'm in the search of purse, and I'm looking at these designer bags, and I'm like, none of these are creative. None of these speak to me. I want a bag that displays my personality. I want a bubbly bag. And when people are like, oh, what does that look like? I don't know what that looks like. I will know it when I see it, but I want a bubbly bag. I think that is me, a bubbly bag. I don't know if I'm gonna get it though, but that's what I want. I want to curate my own style. I want my own personal identity. I don't want to be someone who is wearing neutrals all the time and my personality is not really shown. I don't want to be that. I want to be colorful. I want to be vibrant. I want to not be afraid of displaying my personality through clothes. So I'm talking about breaking away from the simulation and all of this stuff. But how do you actually do it? How did I do it? It's actually very hard. And I think the first thing is developing self-awareness, journaling, meditating, having time alone, figure out what you truly want in life. I think solo traveling helped me unlock my self-awareness so much. The first time I solo traveled, I journaled so much. Now I can like just think about it and kind of talk it out with myself. And even then, I still do like journaling as well. But oh my God, the self-awareness I had, I would do journal prompts even when I wasn't solo traveling. And I'd be like, what does my ideal life look like? With nobody else perceiving my life, what does my ideal life look like? What would I want my life to look like? I don't care what other people think of it. No one's even looking at this journal. What would my life look like? I want to wake up in the morning, probably sleep in a little bit. I don't care what these people say about waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. That is not me. I'm not a morning person. I'd have tea. I'd go to my garden. Like, there's just things that I'm like, these are the things that I want to do. This would make me happy. What makes you happy? Regardless of what people think, journaling really was helpful in providing self-awareness, and of course therapy also helped me do that. It was actually the initial thing that helped me, and journaling helped as well at the same time. Also setting boundaries with society. Just being like, okay, this is important to me. It might not be important to you, and that's fine, but it's important to me. And just sticking with your boundaries. Like, say for example, if the societal norm is it's okay to be 30 minutes late, and you say, no, I like to be on time, that's your boundary. I think it's also good when you're breaking away from a simulation, or you're trying to break away from the simulation, is doing things that are not normal. Traveling solo, travel alone. Whether it's within your own city or actually going like outside of your city, go to a restaurant alone, go read a book outside alone. There's so many things that people like are afraid to do alone. It's kind of weird because I feel like it's things that you should naturally do alone. Like, why do we always have to be tied down to someone else? Or maybe like do an alternative lifestyle. I don't know what an alternative lifestyle would look like. Maybe like digital nomads, for example. Or maybe lots of people love living in the city. That's like a societal norm. Everyone goes to the city. You hate the city. Why are you moving to the city if you hate the city? It's kind of like a lot of people tell me, oh, you should move to Toronto. I hate Toronto. I hate big cities. I think they smell. I think they're gross. I don't like the fast pace of them. And so it's not somewhere that I would ever go. Even if other people are like, oh, what? Like, everybody loves Toronto. I don't love Toronto. I don't like big cities in general. Or even like you could explore a different career path. If you started in accounting and you want to move to IT, or you want to go into a professional field, I think anything's possible and you can change at any moment in time. I honestly don't like that people say things like, I'm too old to change my career. Who says? Who says you're too old? You're telling yourself that because society has told you that. Get that out of your head. I never believe someone's too old to do anything. And then also, I think what's really important is to make sure what you're consuming is things that are about breaking free from societal norms or people who've broken away from societal norms. Like, your feed should not be people pushing societal norms onto you, because I truly believe you are what you consume. Even if you do not intend to, what you consume slowly starts to change, like, how your mind works, what you value, and what your morals are. So if you do social media, make sure that, you are adding people who are not doing this social norm. Maybe people who have a different type of relationship than the society's norm. People who solo travel, like me. Or people who have decided to move away from the 9 to 5 and go into something else and do something that they're passionate about. I feel like it gives you kind of like inspiration to do things. I think it's important to be able to define success on your own terms. Do not build a vision of success that is based on what society deems successful. Oftentimes, you will not be happy with that. It will not bring you enjoyment or fulfillment. Build a vision of success that you want, that would make you happy. If society's vision of success is you should graduate by 23 and you are 33, it is okay to graduate at 37. You are still successful. You still completed university. There are no timelines. It is okay to have different dreams than others. It is okay to want success in a different way. Ultimately, I think success is when you are happy at the end of it all and you feel fulfilled. I also think it's important for you to be authentic. Stay true to yourself, because I think one thing is, if you want to ensure you are breaking free from societal norms, just be yourself. And naturally, you will break away from the societal norms. Whatever makes you feel free and what makes you feel fulfilled. I feel like societal norms almost don't want you to feel fulfilled. They do not want you to be happy for some reason. It's so interesting how we normalized things that actually ultimately do not even make us happy. And then, of course, I think it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people. It's hard. It is hard to do. But when you find people who don't care about fitting the mold and they are resonating with you and they are truly good peoples, it's such a rarity. I will just say that. So embrace that when you do find it. I don't know why this topic has been on my mind for so long, so I'm glad that I was able to sit down today to chat a little bit about it. It's been constantly popping up for me, and I just think it's such an interesting topic to discuss. But I would love to hear from you guys. What do you think? What are some beliefs or routines that you are doing right now that you don't feel is true to yourself? How do you think your life would look different if you were living fully according to your own values? And just remember, guys, this is not a linear process. I feel like it's a continuous process. Sometimes you fall backwards, sometimes you move forward to break away from the simulation. But don't give up. I think it's so important to think for yourself and to be true to yourself, because that's truly what provides happiness at the end of the day and makes you feel like very content and feel fulfilled with yourself. It doesn't have to be big steps. It could be small steps. It could be starting a new hobby or doing something just a little bit different than what you're normally doing, pushing yourself closer to those goals that you actually want, not that someone else placed upon you. That's it for me for today. Thank you guys for listening, and please let me know your thoughts on this. I would love to hear more from you guys. You guys can chat with me on YouTube or through Instagram. I have my links in the bio. But it was lovely chatting with you guys, and I will see you next time. Ciao.